Please just bear with us. Okay, perfect. So, as I was saying, good evening, everyone. I'm going to start again. We are in the month of love. We love to love, and we also, should be showing love to other people. Love makes us secure. Love is, love is such a beautiful thing. And we thought this month, let's talk about communication and conflict management, because I feel that whatever we do in life, no matter how good you may think you are, I mean, if I would ask everyone, everyone would say that I'm very good, you will probably say, yes, you're very good. But then when conflict starts to happen, it can be really, really, it can really, really make you feel, that, or question yourself sometimes to say, oh, I thought I was a good person, but there are ways to manage conflict and there are ways to communicate as well. And we're not saying that we're the best. I always say it in this meeting. We're not saying that we are the best. We're not the best at what we do. But what we are saying is that we want to thrive to be better than what we have been before. We can always thrive to be better. There's always space to become better at what we do. So we are the Aways. That's my husband, Olusegun Awe.
I'm Olusegun Awe.
And I'm Olubumi Awe, Olu and Hulu. So tonight we have the Colossians family. Round of applause for them, I should say. Drum roll. So we have the Colossians family. I've known them for, I'm not sure now, maybe about 4 years or so. I just went like somebody is attending this meeting tonight. I think someone invited me for their program, and it was during COVID, and I was wowed, the very day that I saw them. They're not just the only one in Colossians family. They're always like, they have like packs of different couple. Each one just knows how to do something. But one thing that I love the Colossians family for, and I love from what you see that they do, is a family network. It's family. God loves family. God is interested in families. And they talk about, everything family. And I really, really, really love what they do. I put their link also, so that people know they deal with marriage, they deal with parenting, they deal with dating and relationship, they deal with children, whatever it is from a biblical perspective. So tonight, they are not new to Pass the Baton.
Yeah.
I've got Dr. Kunle and Dr. Wumi. They are both health. I call her Dr. Wumi. She was saying, they are both health practitioners and they are, good at what they do. And I really, really celebrate Ima and Sir. I thank you so much, for coming here tonight. I do not take you guys for granted at all. And I really, really appreciate it. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you for being part of this journey with us. This is about third or fourth edition you've been involved with. We appreciate your devotion, your commitment to marriage, relationship, and I pray that God will continue to bless you.
Amen.
Amen.
Just before this starts, I just want to quickly introduce Pass the Baton, especially if you're new here. Pass the Baton is a women platform where, we come together once a month. Every last Friday of the month, we talk about different issues. And just before we came on, someone literally sent me a message say, oh, they always, do apt topics. And to be honest, we don't choose the topics. We choose them in December for the whole year. We have our topics already lined up. But one way or the other, God keeps showing himself. And I love Pass the Baton because I feel that is a safe place for me to talk. I love to talk. And a lot of women love to talk. So it's a place where we just talk and we actually would advise ourselves, discuss about things. Sometimes you think you know it all. There's no one that knows it all. You need to learn from other people as well. And people just come here to just, be free. We've met people on the platform. We've done great things together. We've collaborated with other ministries. And yes, here we are tonight. So if this is your first time, or if you have a lady in your life, please do send them here every fourth Friday of the month. There is a link that will be shared. Just fill that in and we would let you know about future events. So this is a special edition and that's why you have the men tonight. This is a special edition. Father's Day as well. I would request also, please, men, keep your diaries every last Friday of the month. I will be inviting you. And thank you so much, everyone. Please do feel free. It's a very free platform. We would ask for Q&A. Feel free to talk, feel free to share. And yes,
ask questions as well.
Yes, to ask questions as well. So thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Wumi and Kunle Ajayi. I'm sorry, Dr. Kunle and Wumi Ajayi. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm trying to get this technology working. Please, I hope you can see the full screen now and you can hear us well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, well, it looks like Sister Bumi had spoken a lot about Colossians Family Network. We are both facilitators with Colossians Family Network, and I think my husband is just going to quickly tell us a few of the things that we do in Colossians Family Network before we go on.
Okay, thank you. This year, we at Colossian Family Network also had a Valentine event, and it was the 15th year anniversary of Colossian Family Network. We were not there at the beginning, but like Sister Bumi said, we were invited and we just fell in love with them a few years ago, and we joined them to serve in that charity. We have a mandate for the family, and we run many programs, but key to them is the February event, which is the Night of Hearts and Roses, which is the Valentine event. It's usually a formal dinner dance, and then we have a weekend retreat in October. And then in between, we have a lot of family programs and to the youth as well that we call the Marriage Bites. We believe that as God has laid the foundation of the family, if we continue to support and minister in that regard, God will continue to strengthen our families and take us to our destinies.
Okay, and we also believe that, because there's so much attacks on the institution of marriage, and if the devil is not resting, we believe that as Christians, we need to be working hard to support the institution of marriage, because at the end of the day, marriage is the foundation of the society. Right. So we want to go on into what we have today. Like Sister Bumi rightly said, communication and conflict resolution is so important, because we are social beings and we are in one relationship or the other. Even though the focus today is going to be on marriage, because this is like a Valentine's edition. But if you're here, you're not married, you're not in a relationship, whatever your situation is, I want to assure you that all the things that we'll be talking about today are things that are applicable to any relationship that we might be in, be it friendship, relationship with colleagues, any relationship with, people in church, with family, so all the things that we'll be talking about are very, very applicable.
And we also know, like Sister Bumi said,
Sister Bumi, it looked like you said everything we wanted to say. It looked
like you looked at our scripts. We are not claiming that we know everything. Today's talk is pitched mainly to a couple in the family, to DIY communication and conflict resolution. But we know that some conflicts need to be outside the couple, maybe pastors involved, counselors involved, mentors involved. That is not the forte of the presentation today. But we recognize that there are some that are just beyond what the couple can handle. But more than 90% of problems with communication and conflict resolution that we're addressing today, the couple can handle them.
Okay, so communication. Let's talk about communication. The Latin root of it just means to share, and it's basically the act of conveying or exchanging meanings from one entity or group to another through the use of mutually understood signs, symbols, and how meaning is created. I think the key words here is that it's an act. And that act involves conveying meanings. And so there's miscommunication when the meaning that you're trying to convey is not being received by the other person. And it has to be, the means that we use has to be a means that is mutually understood. You know, some people will talk about the African woman and their eyes. You know, if your mother looks at you one way, mom doesn't need to see anything. You already knows what it's about. And that's a use of signs. So it has to be a means that both people understood, whether it's signs, whether it's words, whether it's language, whether it's, physical touch, whatever it is, the two people has to mutually understand that sign. Otherwise, communication cannot take place.
Okay. I agree with this saying. Let's start with that. Communication will be like the blood of any relationship. If communication is damaged, then the relationship starts to die. There is no such thing as I would not communicate with my partner. No. What we should be doing is, how am I communicating? Am I equipped? Can I learn? What can I do with what I know? How can we move from where we are to the next level? And that's what we're going to explore this evening.
And I also like to add that, in terms of issues and long-term issues and, that couples have that eventually sometimes leads to separation or leads to divorce, it all starts with problems with communication. And you don't just wake up one day and decide that I want to divorce or we want to separate. It's something that's gone on. And the aim of this presentation is to kind of help us, it could be a refresher for some people as well, to help us to deal with daily communication and conflict issues so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where the relationship actually dies completely.
I know that this topic sounds like it's didactic, but this is past the baton. And as we have our spouses here, it's also important, whether we are going to start communication, it's also important to get close. I can see Pastor. I prefer to have this kind of discussion in a very relaxed atmosphere. So can I just say that it's an opportunity to hold hands, if you have not held hands this week, and touch base with each other and relax. If you want a cup of tea, it's a good time to do that. Now, communication can unite us, good communication, and bad communication can divide us. And we are different. Our personalities, I think we've had some recourse to discussing introvert and extrovert before. The mere fact that our personalities are different and the mere fact that our backgrounds are likely to be different means that we are likely to communicate differently. And that in itself is one of the things we need to sit down, understudy one another. Even circumstances like stress. I mean, my wife and I just sat here today saying, oh, I'm tired. I've been all day. And that means that a few other things can suffer when we're hungry, when we're angry, when we're tired, when children get in between. And the fact that man and woman in a relationship, because we see things differently, you've always mentioned that. Those things can introduce elements into our communication that means that we need to be careful. We need to know so that we can use those differences to our advantage.
And let me just add that before you go back to the other slide. And let me just add, because this is like a Valentine event, that our differences are there. There's some differences that we will live with forever. They're never going to change. And what we have to make up our minds to do as couples is to decide whether those differences are going to unite us or whether those differences are going to divide us. And the funny thing is, most of the time, the differences between us are actually the things that attract us to each other. I think there's something in the slide. I think it took some out as well. And so if somebody is an introvert and just likes that my wife can talk, she does all the talking, and then I don't need to do anything. You might get to a point where you don't want to communicate, you don't want to talk again, and then the wife starts to get angry. Why are you not talking? It's important that we...
Because you are talking for the two of us.
So it's important that we recognize and acknowledge our differences. We put stiff upper lip here. There's some, backgrounds we come from where people don't talk. They just sweep things under the carpet. And if you marry somebody from such a background, it takes acknowledging that difference in your background to be able to then learn how to communicate with them. And the halt, the circumstance, that's like, I think that's something that people can take away today as well. Halt, when you're hungry, angry, late, or tired. All those things affect how we communicate. I rang my husband at work today. Sorry, I'm going back to it. I rang him at work today, and I was not expecting, I was either it will pick or it will not pick, because it was at work. I was trying to communicate with him, but he just picked the phone, and then I heard him that he was talking to somebody that was not me, and then he cut the call at the same time. That was not a good time for him. And if I start getting angry that I rang at work, he didn't pick it. It could not, because the circumstance was not appropriate. So we need to be conscious of these things and how it might affect our communication. Sorry, it looks like I've just gone over this slide.
No, I'm just thinking that you may have to extend this meeting to 12 midnight if we go on at this rate, but we will hurry up.
Okay, I think we can just do one or two of these.
Yes. Now, as you probably know, when we are behind the computer, it's good to have communication from the people in their various homes as well. Now, we just put a few general words here to stimulate conversations between couples. And these are just some generalities of communication. So I'll read them, and then in the chat box, you can put whether you agree or disagree. It's okay whether you agree or disagree. So if the words spoken to a woman are communicated in a tone that shows the man truly cares, she will be calm and reasonable. The chances are that she will be calm and reasonable. Who agrees with that? Who disagrees? Do you want to check the chat? Yep, I can see two people there.
Sister Bumi can tell us.
Oh, Sister Bumi can do the voiceover telling us the result from the chats.
A lot of people are saying true, I agree, true,
okay.
Correct, true.
And just give me a minute before, so we'll go and take one from the next slide as well. Men will tune off to a disrespectful tone and tend to zone out to sarcastic, judgmental, mean-spirited conversational tone. I think women will zone out as well for this one.
That's true.
That's true. Thank you. So what we're trying to say here is those are basic things that we need to learn, and I think we would go into more details later. So we tend to hear through our deepest needs. You only need to read 3-4 marriage books to know that generally men want to be honored and respected. We're not saying 100%, but we're saying most men, that is it. How it got into our DNA, we will not go into that today. And again, we learn that most women, some of the needs that rank high for them is security and care. And one of my friends used to say, all I need to know is what my wife wants and how she wants it, and I do it. And the same thing for the wives. The wife should try to learn what makes me tick. Now, don't let anybody say, oh, I will be bribing her. No, we're not bribing her with security and care. It is part of what we have to provide.
And the more we encrypt these codes into our conversations, the more we're able to achieve meaningful and successful communication. Because sometimes it's not, we think we are communicating. And because we're saying here that people tend to hear through what they need. So if you think you're communicating, but you're not saying it, I mean, when we talk about effective speaking, we'll talk about the fact that it's not what you're saying. Oftentimes, it's how you say it. So as couples, it's important that we encrypt this code. So if I'm talking to my husband, I need to encrypt honor and respect into the way I talk to him. If the husband is talking to the wife, he needs to encrypt. The wife needs to sense security and care. It might be that he's angry. The man might be angry, but even in his anger, the wife should still be able to hear that, yes, he's angry, but I can still hear that I still feel secure. I still feel that he cares for me despite his anger.
There have been times that we've had to resolve conflicts that I will tell my wife, I will say, look, you know I am not wicked, you know that. And then she will say, yes, I know. Yes, because you need to know that, yes, I may have done something wrong, but it is not out of wickedness, out of the intent to be wicked. And that is very, that secures our place, and she knows, and conflicts are easier to resolve when we touch bases like that.
Right, okay. So we'll just quickly go through some stumbling blocks to communication. And I like this one, it says insufficient time. And the reason I like it is because we all have 24 hours. And sometimes we keep saying, oh, there's no time, I don't have time, I don't have time. But the thing about time is priority. If we put priority on something, if you think that something is important, you will make time for it. We make time for what is important. But if we use insufficient time as an excuse, as it can be a stumbling block to communication, and this can lead to a backlog of communication. So the things that you are supposed to talk about, you don't talk about them because you keep saying there is no time. Arguments remain unresolved because you have not resolved. Because you've not resolved arguments, you keep arguing about the same thing over and over again. It can also lead to miscommunication because we're rushing communication, and we run the risk of saying things incorrectly. We run the risk of the other person hearing incorrectly, and then misinterpretation occurs because you don't have time to actually explain yourself properly. Non-communication can also result from saying there's insufficient time, where there's no communication or complete breakdown of communication between couples. And what we're going to say here is, actually, couples should make time for communication. One of the things that we recommend is to have time where you don't necessarily wait until something has happened. There's an argument or a conflict that's happened and they'll come, we have to talk. Let's make time to even talk when everything is okay. Just sitting down and say, okay, Tuesday, find out which day is your less busy day, or which day, or retire to bed early and say, sit down, okay, let's talk. Because in doing that, we actually practice communication as well, because sometimes when there's conflict, emotions are running high, and all the things that we're learning here, sometimes we forget to apply them because emotions are running high. So we need to make time for communication as couples.
Okay. Another stumbling block to communication will be holding on to hurt and resentments. And there might have been times that we find it difficult to let things go. And there are different degrees of hurts. But all the other conflicts or problems or challenges that happen, we tend to see them through that has built up. So one of the things that I think we will still mention it is about forgiveness. So all those hurts we are holding on to colors our views, and they cloud our judgments. If as many times you think you have reacted based on what you think because of what has happened, before you actually know what's going on. And we should be people who forgive and let go first. I mean, we cannot but refer to that passage in the scriptures when Peter said, how many times should I forgive somebody? And he says, is it 7 times? No, it's a lot of time. And if you're going to forgive somebody that you don't know so many times, what about somebody who is our spouses?
Okay. Another one is failing to express or failing to listen to or identify the actual feeling behind the words. I think this is where we talk about emotional intelligence. What is your spouse actually trying to say? What is your friend trying to say? What is your colleague trying to say? What is your fiancé or your fiancé trying to say? Sometimes we're not very good at expressing how we feel in words. And so we think we're communicating, but we're actually not communicating. So if somebody says, why haven't you washed up? The feeling behind it is just that, I do all these things in the house, I keep the house clean and tidy, and then you have not washed up. Or somebody says, why are you always late? The feeling could be, I make effort to be, I make effort to get ready, to make sure I dress. Maybe I'm even the one that get the kids ready. And yet you don't value all these things that I do. You are late. But sometimes we just say things and we think the other person understands. So if we are talking and we're not expressing exactly how we're feeling, that's our responsibility to express it. And of course, the person that we're talking to also has the responsibility to identify the actual feeling. I think we women, we are kind of we're not very good in expressing how we feel because we expect the men to read our minds and actually know how we feel. But it's an art that we all have to learn to express our feelings. A lot of us, especially from the African background, one really brought up expressing how we feel, and it's something that we all need to learn.
Okay, maybe it's another topic you need to put on is how to teach men to read women's feelings.
The mind readers.
Now, failure to listen for each other's feelings. Now, it goes two ways. Many people do not know how to express their feelings. Mm. And for those of us who have children, we can see those traces in our children. But the more important thing is, what are we doing about it? Most of us who are professionals, we weren't born professionals. We learned, sometimes we cried, sometimes we were afraid, but we keep taking steps. It's the same thing. To listen for each other's feelings, to think that beyond that question that we may raise, why haven't you washed up? If my wife says that, yes, it's about washing up, but it's more than the washing up. She didn't say that yesterday. Is it that she was stressed today? Is it that I've not washed for the past 1 month? Is it that something else? So sometimes there are feelings that are being expressed behind those words.
I also like, and sorry, would you go back to that? I like the line that says there is always a valid alternate perspective. And as couples in any relation, in fact, not just as couples, in any relationship that we are in, we need to appreciate that your perspective is not the only valid perspective.
Yeah.
Because if we do that, then we will struggle with communication, we'll struggle with conflict resolution, because if you are not someone that can actually say, wait a minute, I didn't see it that way. Or wait a minute, oh, okay, this is how I saw it. This is how you, okay, that's valid as well. Then we will struggle.
Actually, I mean, to use our own experience, one of the things that I think we have learned is that when we have conflicts or when we have problem communicating, when we eventually get to talk, the person says, this happened, but this is how I see it. And we usually want the other person to say, oh, but this is how I see it. And usually when we then combine the two, totally you then get it from the other person's point of view. Oh, so that's why you were mad. But this is why I said what I said. So it is easier to move forward and resolve conflicts, when we can listen and consider other people's feelings.
Okay. Now, another one will be failure to listen for cues. And we need to ask ourselves, when there is, when somebody is not communicating, or when there's conflict, what is being non-verbally expressed? I mean, if we look at that picture, there's a lot that we can say, just looking at the man and the woman. What they're not talking, but non-verbally, they are saying a lot. And in any relationship that we're in, we need to listen for cues. Maybe somebody, you suddenly there's a yes or no answer. Have you done it? Yes. Do you want? No. Do you? That's like a cue. It's for you to be sensing that, okay, what's going on here? Or if maybe you notice that your spouse is unnecessarily quiet, or they're not looking you in the face. We need to listen for all these cues. And it's not about, oh, she has come again, or he has come again. And we because we can become so familiar to each other that we then ignore those cues. But it could then become a stumbling block to communication.
In our experience, it's usually the eye contact that goes first. The eye contact goes, silence increases, and then I start thinking, okay, something's not right.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
I think maybe we'll skip this because of time. Yes, let's skip this. Right.
Yes, we must discuss this.
Yes.
Right.
So, are you taking this? Yeah,
okay. Now, over the years, either because we have not been formally taught, we've been left to our own devices, we have picked up a lot of bad habits, most of us. And that's okay if we don't know. But now we are learning about it. Some people, you can probably find a friend or a partner in some of these. Some people are non-listeners. When you're talking, they're just not listening. And they are the people that you say, well, are you talking to me? Of course, there might be TV on and football match on and things like that, or Netflix on, or somebody's on Instagram. What's important is to know that actually it is not so much 100% the problem with the other person. If we take care of the distractor, what is not making them listen, then the communication will be better. But it's a bad listening habit. Some people are a bored listener. They're just thinking, hurry up with whatever you have to say. And that's not good. That's somebody who is not making communication easy. You're not listening. You're not paying your part. Communication is a two-way thing. The defensive listeners will be the people that, when they're listening, they're not listening so that they can address the issue with their spouses, or so that they can correct where they think they're wrong. They are listening so that they can say, but you also did the same. And I must say that before, when we resolve things, when after maybe my wife has said a few things, I would now say, but you also remember, until we both agree that if we're resolving an issue, let's just resolve that issue. If I also have other issues in the past, it has to come at another time, so that it will not be that all I've come to do is to defend myself. No, all we have come to do is to resolve the issue. And then the interrupter. I mean, we can see this with friends. You are having a chat. They are not listening to you. They're just waiting for the pause so that they can cut in. That doesn't make communication easy. That's a very bad habit. And some people are like, in fact, when I was going through this, I remember a friend. He's just waiting to give you advice. And parents were likely to do that with our children as well. And I mean, it's come up in our family meetings as well before, that I'm the advice giver. But that's not a very good habit of listening or communication. We should listen and let them talk. That is what we're supposed to do. Of course, some people are tangent traveler. They just take the words from you, and then it reminds me of this, and then they go in another tangent. These are not the ways to handle listening in the communication. When we listen, we should hear people out and understand what they are saying and clarify what we think they are saying. Then we will be ready to move on.
Yeah, and when we're listening, it's not about and I know couples can fall into this error as well, or this bad habit of trying to find what's the word, something to counter. I know it's that, I think that might be part of the defensive that the person is talking, but you're thinking of how to counter what they're saying. Well, obviously, you're not listening, because all you're doing is just trying to invalidate whatever the other person is trying to say. So effective communication, very, very, which is why we're doing this. It's the shared responsibility, like I said earlier on, between the speaker to make themselves understood and the listener through effective speaking and effective listening. So if you have a message, you as the sender that's sending the message must make sure that the person that you're sending it to received it how you want it to be received, and that there's a feedback to confirm to you that they actually received the information. Because like I said, it's not about communication, it's about communicating effectively. And this cannot happen without effective speaking and effective listening. It's a shared responsibility.
Just before you go on, I have a hand raised up. Louis, yeah, just in case. I think she wants to speak about whatever slide that was there before.
Okay.
Mom, I've told you to unmute yourself. If you can just, are you there? Mommy Lara Kupoluyi.
Hello, good evening, house. Thank you for allowing me to unmute myself. Just want to say a little word about communication between husband and wife at home, like helping you to do a show, because I have grown-up children who will come to me and say, okay, my husband is not doing this and that. Then I'll ask them, like, I'll give you an example. One of my daughters came to me and said, I'm overwhelmed with housework. I'm tired. He doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Then I told her, have you ever told him to help you? Because if you do it alone, he will think you're a superwoman. And Nigerian men, I'm sorry to say, believe house chore is for women alone. She said, oh, so I should tell him before he realizes he should help. I said, yes. Discuss with him. Don't bottle up. Just talk to him and see what happens. And she went home, spoke to him and said, I need help. If it's helping me giving a child a bath in the morning, I'll do the other one. Then we can all dress them up, washing the plate. Do you know the husband realized that she needed help and started helping? And it made both of them happy, instead of the woman bottling everything up and giving yourself headache. So effective communication, as you have said, is very, very important in a relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma. I think that just, gave like a classical, a practical example as to how just simple communication sometimes can help alleviate a lot of stress within a relationship. Because another mistake we make is assumption. We cannot assume that the other person is just doing something, or they're just not helping, like in the case she's given, it's just not helping because, it's just not doing this because. Those are assumptions. We need to talk and talk and talk. Thank you, Ma, for that practical example.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll continue on effective speaking, just like we say. Sometimes it's not just what you say, but how you say it. In being clear, not assuming, being specific and positive about it. I mean, they say that it takes 10 positive statements to overcome one negative one. So we need to be careful what we say. And at home, in some home, 80% of communication is negative.
Yes, a fact.
So it is not only that many of us are not very good at communication. It is that the little that we know, the majority of them are negative. And this is where things like this come into play, that we need to be mindful of what we're communicating. When we do it, is it positive? And the right tone is important. The right body language is important. And at the right time as well. Like Mommy Kupoli just said, go back home. When the time is ripe, let the man know that, look, this is too much on me, or this is what I want. And the converse is also the case. Let the woman know that this is important to me. And we know the things that are important to A might not be as important to B. Unless we speak, discuss, and agree on them, we would not be communicating very well.
When I found, so sorry, would you go back to that slide about we found that fact about 80% of communication in some home is negative. I thought, wow, that's concerning. But when you look critically at it, it's obvious that the things that might be responsible for this is because when we say we're communicating, we're not communicating effectively. Like the next slide I talked about, finding the right time. Sometimes when you communicate when you're hungry, when you're angry, we'll talk about anger management in one of the slides. When you're in a hurry, when you are late, when you're under stress, the chances are that you're not likely to use the right tone, you're not likely to be caring, you're not likely to be concise, you're not likely to be respectful in that communication. And that goes into not just communicating with each other as spouses, with our children as well. We need to be mindful, we need to be conscious, we need to be self-aware. I think self-awareness is very, very important. How are you feeling? Are you tired? Are you stressed? Then be mindful of the things you say, because the chances are that you say it in a negative way. And like we have seen, it takes 10 positive words to actually counter one negative. And so if we will do well if we make more efforts to make positive statements all the time than make one negative statement, because then you need 10 to counter the effect of one negative statement. Effective speaking continues. It's according to scientists, the speeches are, is made up of 3 components. So we just want to do a quick quiz here. So we've got the content as part of our speech, the tone of voice and body language. So let's pick a guess. What is the percentage that you think each of these aspects of our speeches, these components, what percentage do you think each of it takes? Let's have a quick type into the chat. Content, tone of voice, body language. So just do it 20, 30, 50, or however you want it to be, just to make it quick. So we know that your 20 will be content, your 30 is tone of voice, your 50 is body language.
So while we're doing that, let me shed more light. When I give a message to say, my wife, can you let me do something? That word, that's the content. But the tone of voice is also saying something, because it's different from, come and do something for me. Because I've said the same thing twice, but then body language as well. So in that communication, what's the percentage that the content, what's the tone, and what's the body language?
Do we have people typing?
Just read a few. If you remember the...
You're muted, you're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, so there's a lot of variants.
Okay.
People saying tone 50, content 10, body 40. Another says body language is 60, tone is 40, content is 10. And 7, 23, 70, 20, 40, 40, 10, 60, 30, 20, 50, 30. So it's just variance. And I hope no one has used Google.
I'm sure even if they use Google, it may be.
Someone says
vary
Tony
a
is
little.
what? 100.
Yeah, and the reason there's variance is because of the prominent communication language. Some people are passive, some people are passive aggressive, some people are aggressive, and some people are assertive. And that's what will makes the difference. So if you're passive, body language will be more because you don't say much, you keep quiet.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive depend on the mood or whatever that's happening. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's explosive. Aggressive people, it's the tone. Big words, and even small words with volume. So and then people that are assertive, they either
they don't say much.
They just moderate things and avoid conflict mostly.
Thank you so much for that.
So generally,
I take that this is like an average of taking into consideration all the different communication styles, like Pastor Aware I've just said. The content, that's the thing that we're actually saying, takes 70%. 7%. The tone of voice takes 38%, and our body language takes the largest, which is 55%.
That's why our parents could look at us.
Yeah, and then you get the
message.
message.
We get the message when we were young.
You don't need to see anything. And if we look at that, the picture that that's been inserted into that slide, that body language is saying different things. You can say a lot by just looking at the different body languages. And that means that when we're communicating and effective speaking, you don't just think about the content of what you want to say, because the words is what you're saying through the word is so minimal. The tone come next, and then your body language. So it's important that we're aware. I think a lot of people just concentrate on the content and say, I've said it. Like the Yorubas will say that sorry. There's a different ways that you can say sorry. It has male, it has there's a female sorry and a male sorry.
I don't understand that. I'm British.
Because it's how we say things. It's and we need to be mindful of these things when we say we are communicating. Communication is not just speaking, it's being an effective speaker. Our time is going, so we need to rush.
No, actually, effective listening is important. Listening actively, part of eye contact. Listening attentively, not like those bad habits that we mentioned, and listening completely. Let's get what this person is trying to say. And that helps us. So effective communication requires more than exchange of information. I think we have established that. When done right, communication fosters understanding. It strengthens relationships, and it improves our teamwork. It builds our trust. So the least we could do is to know and then continue to learn how best to communicate with each other.
Can I just say something in terms of when we talk about effective listening? Would you just go back to the slide? One of the things.
Know that I'm summarizing the.
No, I think, and the reason I want to say this because it wasn't until my daughter pointed it out to me that I realized that oftentimes when she's talking to me, I have my phone. And I'm looking at my phone and looking at her and looking at my phone and looking at her until she pointed it out that, Mom, most of the time when I'm talking to you, you're looking at your phone. I'm like, no. And then I realized actually, this is what I've been doing. And as couples, it's some way we can't, do effective listening when you are distracted. When somebody is talking to you, be interested and encourage them to talk. Yes, and actually, it's courtesy when you have your phone and you're supposed to say, I want to talk to you, and you put that phone aside. It's like you are telling them that whatever I'm doing on the phone is not as important as what you want to say to me. Whereas when we are halfway, looking at the phone, looking at them, it's like your attention is divided. Sometimes, I mean, when my husband has done that, sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll come back, and then he realized that, oh, okay, and then he put his phone down.
And vice versa.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be listened to, and listen completely, because when you listen and the person knows that you actually make them feel important, and it's good that we can make each other feel important as spouses. Okay, let's go on. Right. I think we'll skip this as well because of time. Right, conflict.
Well, let's just make this simple. All of us have had, if we have not had today, and will continue to have conflict. It's an interactive process. It's manifested in incompatibility or disagreement or dissonance between us social entities. But, and somebody has defined it as an activity which takes place when conscious beings or groups wish to carry out mutually inconsistent acts concerning their wants, needs, or obligation. This is just for completion's sake. We don't need definition of conflict because we all know what conflicts are. But
Right.
Conflicts are inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was one of the things that we said when we started. Conflict is inevitable. It doesn't matter who you are, how good you think you are a communicator. And that's why a refresher like this is good for us, to help us in our relationships. We are different. We've talked about our differences, how they're to unite us and not to divide us. Different personality, backgrounds, circumstances. Just being a man and a woman alone is a source of conflict, because like they say, men are from Mars, women are from where are we from? The fact our makeup is different. We think differently, we act differently. So that's another source, a good source of conflict. We are naturally self-centered as well. Human beings, we have our preferences, we have our perspectives. My way is right, I do it right. But we need to remember that in our relationships, two are better than one. And so when we're being selfish, we need to be self-aware that, look, I am in this relationship not to be one, but to be, how do I put it? To join together with my spouse, so that we are better. We are not supposed to be better as individuals than we are as couples. And according to research, 69% of conflicts in relationships are perpetual. They are recurrent conflict. And it's also because it's based on personality and needs. So we need to be able to dialogue, to talk as couples, to be able to deal with issues, so that when we feel stuck, we can sit down and say, right, this issue is coming up again and again and again. What is going on? And then we can talk about it as couples.
There are many sources of conflict. I'm sure we can name a few.
We've talked about that. Work, stress, money, that's a major one. Feeling stressed and tired, I think we've talked about that as well. Sometimes church, we think, we might think, serving God, it can be a source of conflict and it needs to be managed. We've talked about personality, we've talked about housework, our background, sex, that's a major one as well. Children, even though they're blessing, they can be in-laws, health. I mean, the list is endless.
Yeah. And
before we go on, let me know. I've got a raised hand again.
Okay.
Would you like to take it, or do you want to take it at the end? It's up to you.
Yeah, let's take it. Okay.
Auntie Grace, Prof's mom, please I've asked you to unmute, ma. Thank you.
One thing you mentioned something about differences there, because there are also when you consider your spouse as having a form of disability, not a disability that you can see, but like people that are who are neurodivergent, that is people that have hidden disabilities. And one thing is that, and some people, they lack communication skills, they lack interpersonal skills, they don't know how to show emotion, because that can be a major problem. And I think I've spoken about this in our church when they were doing family matters, and I raised it up, and they asked me to speak about 15 minutes concerning those aspects, because we have hidden disabilities which are not seen. The person might find it difficult to process information, and you are figuring that this man is not even very responsive. You understand? So, and one of the ways you can be able to address that is that you understand that, one, there is a fact, our brains are wired differently. Then two, you mentioned about background. You mentioned trauma. Some people can have their background, they can have a kind of trauma that has been a pattern in that family. And there's so many, we can't talk about this. This is going to be another day, but it's a big, huge thing. And you don't know how to, because one thing I know as a trauma informed care specialist is that once a child is raised in trauma, he will be an adult in crisis. And unresolved trauma that is not processed can affect communication, can affect, because every emotion is valid. Emotion is a form of communication. Like when a child cries, like when your wife is moody or your husband is moody, it's something, it's a form of emotion. And then you need to figure that out. But God will help us, because it's so difficult, especially when you are not used to that pattern. And we want to really break that pattern. So but marriage is not something that we have the template, because what works for a particular spouse might not work for, because they have different backgrounds. Where they're coming from is quite different. And you know what? Like, emotion is key to action. Emotion can affect your behavior. What messages are you sending to your brain? And you don't know where that person is coming from, or the person can be dyslexic, the person can be an OCD, the person can be, any of the, whether the husband or the wife. And that affects a lot of things, because some people, they can be married, and people are, and it takes 9 years, because there was an incident that says, it took them 9 years for her to understand her husband. And ever since, but God will direct us. Life is about learning, unlearning, and relearning. Thank you.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Thank you so much, ma. And it's almost corroborating what we said before, that some aspects of communication and conflict, we can't deal with it now. Some we need professionals to help us. That's the truth. We would need to get some more people. But if we look at this as some of the basic skills, it does not mean that this is it about communication and conflict. But thank you so much for that insight. Good. You were going to talk about.
So yes. There are two aspects to dealing with conflicts, and someone says that what counts in making a happy marriage is not so much how compatible you are, but how you deal with incompatibility. Because you see a lot of people say, "Oh, we're not compatible." You're not meant to be compatible, because you're a man. The fact that you're a man and a woman, that also means that you're different. So sometimes we overemphasize incompatibility as a reason why marriages cannot work. Like we said, the two aspects to dealing with what we see as incompatibility is recognizing and accepting our differences. And like what last speaker just said, sometimes we can help ourselves when we spend the time that we have, like we call the time courtship. Before marriage is a time to actually, we have the opportunity to try and understand each other, to try and know, recognize the differences. Where is this person coming from? What is their past history? What trauma have they experienced in their life that can affect you in your relationship, and try to seek help if necessary. And then anger management is also important, because oftentimes with conflict comes the emotion anger, like you talked about emotion. Emotion is we communicate with our emotions because it's valid, it's something that we experience. And oftentimes with conflict, the emotions that we experience is anger.
Yes, to continue.
Okay, so yeah, so
I was fiddling with this and it's not working. So that's
okay.
why.
So talking about anger management is a big problem in relationships, and anger is not wrong. In fact, the Bible also talked about anger. It says, be angry, but sin not. How we manage our anger and how we express it is what can be wrong. Anger is a symptom, it's a reflection of emotional pain. So if maybe someone had done something, or and you're angry, you're expressing your emotional pain through your anger. It's a signal that something is wrong. Your mind is under pressure because of the emotional pain, and you don't like something about how you feel, maybe how somebody has spoken to you or how you've been treated. So that stirs up the emotional pain and the anger. Anger is suppressed emotional energy, which needs to be released properly. It is, if you look at that picture there, we don't have to express anger that way. Like you look like a kettle that the steam is coming out of every possible, possible orifice. We can express anger in a positive way, in like we're saying, it's not wrong to be angry. We're not saying, because we're emotional beings, so we will experience emotions, but it's how we express and manage the anger that's important. The healthy ways to manage anger is to calm down. We've talked about self-awareness. I am angry right now. That's my self-awareness. I know I am angry. Sometimes when you are angry, your adrenaline is pumping and you can actually feel yourself, ready to burst. But that's not the time to start talking, because you're likely to say something that you regret. You're likely to say something negative. So I am angry. I am aware. I need to calm myself down. Sometimes you need to go for a walk just to calm yourself down. Then talk. If you're not calm, you're still angry, you've not calmed yourself, don't talk. I think that's how we offend our children, we offend people as well when we do things in anger. And then express your feelings. There's nothing wrong in saying, I am angry right now, or I feel angry, or I feel spoken down to, or I feel. Don't say or do something you will regret. Sometimes you say, I didn't mean it, but you said it. And people who say things in anger that will be ringing bells, even after you resolve the issue. Your spouse is still thinking about the things that you've said. How can she say that? They forgot that you said it out of anger. You can say, I don't mean it till you're blue in the face, but you have said it. Losing your temper is a choice. It doesn't just happen. Oh, I just lost my temper and then I slapped her, or I just lost my temper. It's a choice. We have to remind ourselves that you are in control of your temper. It's your choice to lose it. It doesn't just happen. Let's remember that there's always a different perspective. Sometimes we get angry and then we'll destroy things, and then you actually realize that your anger was baseless because you've not given the person the chance to talk. You've not given the opportunity to resolve the conflict. It says there that anger is only one letter short of danger. So we need to be careful of anger in our relationships. It can damage things. It can destroy relationships.
Yep. Thank you so much. We've talked a lot about personalities and differences and gender. In many ways, you will find that we are quite different. One of our contributors said it took 15 years for somebody to know their spouses to a level. It's a journey that will continue to go through.
Journey of
At
discovery.
least we know them at deeper level even. What you love most about them may be what you hate what you hate most about them. For instance, if you think that your partner, I think there's a slide about your partner is very cool and that's why you're laid back. Yes, you may admire that, but on the flip side is that then you may actually think that they're lazy and so it may cause conflict. A great marriage is not when a perfect couple come together. No, all of us, each of us, we know we're not perfect. We know that it's established. But it is when imperfect people, imperfect couple, learn to enjoy their differences. And this is the task for us. I mean, I can't gloss over this one. The task is that we must learn. We know those differences are there. We should learn to live with those differences, but we should take a step even further to enjoy those differences in this life that the Lord God has given us.
Right, I think we can skip this as well.
I'm too forward to skip it.
let's skip. Right, let's do this.
Okay.
So handling conflict.
And this is the home run, right? We will soon finish.
Yeah, this is the single most important factor in determining the success of your marriage or of any relationship that we find ourselves in, because like we've rightly established, conflicts will arise. But having the skills to deal with them and handle them properly, you know, if we do that, it's what will determine how successful our marriages or our relationships are. Zig Ziglar said many marriages would be better if both the husband and the wife clearly understood that they are on the same team. Because sometimes we forget that when we are in conflict, when we are angry with each other, we forget that we're actually on the same team. We're not fighting against each other. We're not playing against each other. So whatever it is that is causing conflict, if we come together as a team to resolve them. So I am not angry with my husband. I am angry with what he has done. There's a difference. If I make it about him, then I start to see him as on the opposite side, rather than a team player, somebody that I'm on the same team with. And so we need to know how to handle conflict in our relationships.
Yeah, there are unhealthy ways to handle conflict. But before then, I remember it was Nikki and Sila Lee. They work with Nikki Gumbel. They were saying that when we have issues as couples, the issue should be in front of us, not in between us. So when we put those issues in between us, the conflict deteriorates. But if we're on the same side and the issue is in front of us, then we can deal with the issue. And I think that's a way that we've been blessed to see it. Now, unhealthy ways to handle conflict will be attacking. You are so full of yourself, it's all your fault. No, let's not forget that emotional attack, trading blames. Let's not even mention physical hitting or slapping, name calling, saying hurtful things. In fact, I would borrow a key from Paul. Those should not be mentioned amongst us. But if they happen, let it be the last time. There is nothing stopping us from saying, look, I don't like you calling me names. And so these are the ways we should go about them. And then another unhelpful ways, the other extreme is somebody may be attacking, the other one is surrendering. Anything you surrender, that's also not good. The middle of the road is better. I mean, for the sake of peace, I'm not going to talk. I'm sorry, even when it's your fault, when it's not your fault, all the time. Occasionally, when it's not your fault, you can say sorry for this so that we can resolve things. But when it is all the time, when you are right, when you are wrong, when you are left, when you are right, it is you that is always saying sorry. this is an opportunity for us to say, look, how do we address this issue? And things like, I can't deal with it now, or just have it your way. Those things should not be part of the things that those are unhealthy ways of handling conflict.
And the mistake we make sometimes, especially with the surrendering, is we think, oh, it's a quick fix. I'll just, oh, I'm so sorry, it's fine, okay, have it your way. But what we're doing is that we're sweeping things under the carpet, and it's likely to come back to bite us later on in the relationship. So if we see it as a quick fix, we're just, causing issues and problems for ourselves in the future. Another unhealthy way of dealing with conflict is withdrawal. You go quiet, monosyllabic answers, keeping to yourself, restricting yourself to one side of the bed, avoiding eye contact during conversation. This silent treatment, it's unhealthy. Maybe when you're still dealing with emotions, yes, but you need to, it's not, by the time you're giving your spouse a silent treatment for 3, 4 days, 5 days, 1 week, that's unhealthy. Yes, you can maybe deal with the emotions, but deal with it and don't drag it unnecessarily, because it will result in withdrawal, which is an unhealthy way of dealing with it.
Maybe that's why the scripture says, be angry, but do not sin.
Do not sin.
The anger is when you deal with it, it's emotion.
Yeah.
But it then becomes sin when you're then using that to punish your spouse, as silence treatment, yeah, using it as a weapon. That is not good.
And escalation as well. Some people just have a way of blowing things out of proportion. Okay, you want trouble, I will give it to you. And then you can end up with shouting matches and screaming, name calling, exchange of hurtful words. If you say one hurtful word, I will even say a bigger one, and then I will say a bigger one, and it can continue like that. These are unhealthy ways of dealing with conflict. It doesn't help at all to try and escalate issues unnecessarily.
Yeah, I'm making references to previous issues.
Yes.
The Bible now says that love does not keep record of wrong.
And we've talked about forgiveness as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Invalidation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you, instead of agree that whatever is happening, whatever is causing the conflict is real and genuine to the person, you're just invalidate them. Oh no, you're just talking rubbish. Oh, you are so melodramatic. No, it is good to validate it, to say, oh, I know that's how you feel. Then we discuss about it. And the negative interpretation is not good, because we have conflict does not equate to you don't love me. Because we have conflict does not equate to you want to divorce me. No, it's that we have conflict that we need to settle so we can move on.
And the negative interpretation, sometimes I think there could be an element of emotional blackmail as well, which is not a way of, you want to blackmail the other person. Oh, you don't love me, that's why you did this, or you only married me because of that.
Because you want children.
It could be, it could be a way of emotionally blackmailing, trying to blackmail our spouses. And so those are the ways that we need to, they're not healthy ways, we need to avoid them. So we just want to talk quickly about steps to resolving conflict. We've talked about how not to resolve conflict. 5 steps, we call them the 5 S's. So stop, shine, sit, smooth, and start. So stop. There are questions you need to be asking yourself. So you need to stop. Sometimes when you're angry, this stop helps because you want to calm yourself down. And then ask yourself, is this the right time to resolve it? Is it a good time? Is my spouse angry? Am I angry? Am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I in a hurry? Do I have the time? Am I on my periods and my hormones are all over the place? Is this the right time? Is it, do I want to make some food first? Do I want to make sure that my spouse is relaxed? Do I want to help with house chores and children? And use their love languages, make sure that I prepared the mood. Because when somebody is full, when somebody is relaxed, when you are not stressed, those are the right times to start thinking of resolving conflicts. But sometimes the mistake we make is we want to do it right there and then, now. But it doesn't always work. And that's why sometimes you can say you communicated, but the issue is still not resolved because we've not chosen the right time to do it. So sometimes it takes us to calm ourselves down. I'm angry, but I'll calm myself down. I will, do all the things and make sure that the time is right before. Actually, sometimes when we do that, it takes more, what's the word? It gives more weight to it, that actually you've been angry and you've not reacted. You've been able to hold it together and wait until the right time to have the conversation. It's in public, is never the good place for husband and wife to be resolving conflict. We all know that. Sometimes you need privacy. Sometimes you need the children to be in bed as well, or to have gone out of the house before you resolve your conflict. So it's important that we stop, first of all. Let's not rush into, let's talk about it now, because it might not be the right time.
And some of these skills, even at work.
Yes.
If you want to resolve and clarify things with your boss, sometimes you just look at the mood. You know the best time to go so that you can have the best answer. We do this adeptly at work sometimes, and we could just import those things to our home so that we can have a home where we're all at rest.
Okay, Shine.
Yes, it's important to know exactly what is the problem. This is how I felt. And like I said before, one of the things we have learned is you describe what has happened, and I describe how it has happened or how I see it. And usually you can then say, this is the real issue. What are the feelings that is being expressed? And we need to underscore the fact that my spouse is not the problem. My spouse is my companion on earth. We're on the same team. So it is the issue that we need to deal with. The issue can be part of my behavior. It can be part of my wife's behavior. Yes, that's the issue. But that doesn't define me entirely.
So we should be seated to have this discussion. As we have this discussion, there are certain no-go areas.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, things like name calling, giving ultimatum, if you don't change in the next 6 months, then
my father's house.
I'm going to divorce you. We should avoid throwing wild threats of suicide. I'm just going to kill myself, or I'm going to divorce you. We should avoid things like remarks about in-laws. This is about you and I, no other person or relatives. We should avoid remarks about physical appearance, intelligence, you're stupid, or you're too big, you're too fat. And we should avoid physical violence. Those are the no-go areas, but it's important that in resolving conflicts, we find the time. We talked about insufficient time, but we need to find the time to sit and have a discussion. Let's remember that it takes 10 positive statements to counteract just one negative statement.
Well, we need to smoothen things out, make up. Why do we raise our voice in argument? Somebody said that it's because of the feeling of not being heard, that people then feel the need to raise their voice and shout. In a relationship that we have established, we know that conflict will happen. If we have been going through all these steps, we need to smoothen things. The aim is to resolve the conflict. We prioritize listening to each other and reassuring. It's always an opportunity of reassuring each other when we resolve conflict. And we say, despite all that happens, you are still the best thing that happened to me. And that is good. And we speak effectively, speak the right thing in the right way. These are things that we need to learn, to listen, as we have said, completely.
Attentively and actively. So part of smoothing things will also involve forgiveness. Like we said earlier, when we forgive, we do ourselves, we're not just forgiving for the person, we're forgiving for our own sake as well, because unforgiveness can be a very, very big weight. Forgiveness is required if you're going to smooth things and move to the next level. We identify what caused the hurt. We should learn to say sorry. And when somebody has said they're sorry, they have said they're sorry, you need to learn to forgive. Every marriage needs it. We can't do a married relationship without forgiveness. Pretending it doesn't matter is denial. Oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter. No, if you're hurt, if you're angry, if you've been, all the feelings, express them. Let's not be, be in denial of the fact that we've hurt each other. Trying to forget is dementia, is loss of memory, because we will not forget. And that's why it's important that we mind the things that we say, because you've seen couples that have said things to each other years back, and those things still come to bite them, because you don't have dementia. You remember those things. You might not, but because you might still remember these feelings. So it takes something else to happen for you to remember that, oh, this person said this, and you can then start to add things together. Choosing not to hold the hurt against the other person is a choice that we have to make. We have to choose not to bear a grudge or seek, because it could be tempting to seek revenge and hold on to resentment. Resolving conflict means that we make up our minds. Okay, we've talked about it. You've said you're sorry. I will forgive you. I might still have residual emotions, but I will make effort to make sure that I don't bear a grudge and I don't seek revenge or hold on to resentment. These are choices that we have to make.
In an ideal world, start as part of it. What would we want to happen? What can we put in place to achieve or work towards that? At work, I'm a doctor. Unfortunately, things go wrong. One of the things that I have learned, and one of the culture that I'm imbibing, is that when things go wrong, we look into it. And then we say, what can we put in place so that it would not go wrong again? And we can do that in our families. If it takes, let's say by 10 p.m., put your phone aside, or don't look at your phone in the bedroom if that's the cause of conflict. Those are the things that we could do. What are the options? What are the solutions to the challenge? Like the example
house
chores. Okay, can we say, okay, I'm available on weekend, just leave me to it on weekend. That's what I can do. Or discuss it like Mrs. Kupolu has said, things like that. Let's put things in place. And that's how we start climbing up.
And then it means that the things that we are not having to deal with the same issues over and over again. When we have managed to resolve conflict properly and put things in place to avoid it happening again, then it saves us having to repeat the same, go over the same thing.
Right. Yes, that's just the summary, actually. That's what we have just discussed now.
Okay, let's go to the because of time.
Skip it to the end.
Okay, I think we've managed, we've actually trimmed it down so much, but it looks like we don't have much time left now for questions.
No, we don't have any time left. I'm glad that the away still kept us. I thought they would have put the plug on this.
So that is the end of our slides. And
you need to stop sharing.
Yes, okay, yeah.
I think the first person, there was a hand up, and that was, but before I go on, I just want to say thank you first. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. And okay, and yes, Sister BC says you have covered all grounds, and that is so true. We enjoy you coming here over and over again. You're already past the baton, so we really, really appreciate you. I've learned a lot, and I believe that a lot of us, yes, I've learned so much. Like you said, it's not just about marriage, it's not about couple, single, work, whatever, our children. We can use the same method or the same strategy to achieve the same results. So we just want to say thank you. So the first one is, I think there was a hand raised. Auntie Grace, I'm gonna look for you again quickly. Where are you? If you just raise your hand. Okay, I've seen you. I've asked you to unmute yourself, ma.
Yes, thank you so much. Well done for the speakers. Thank you for what you've shared, which is quite interesting. I just want to emphasize more on the when you mentioned about anger. Anger is an aspect of mental health, irritability. When you are angry, there must be an emotion that is actually behind why you mentioned it in your slide, that why you are angry. But sometimes we can mind is everything, because once you once you have in your emotion, that is critical to your action. So how you behave, how you react, how you respond to issues. So, but at the same time, we can, from my own experience, not be around marriage, but from raising a child with disability, and this resonates with anybody going through anger, going through something that we can always reframe our mind. What messages are we sending to our brain? That's really key. So if you are sending to the brain, your brain that, oh, you are angry, because anger is an emotion, and every emotion is very valid. So it's always okay to validate your emotion. It's not just by putting it by the side, to validate and what is underpinning your anger. Try and see what is actually underpinning that anger. Why are you angry? Because sometimes you can do a kind of reflection and see whether you are the one at fault. Maybe you are misunderstanding that person, or maybe, and that helps very much in actually making sure that you minimize the anger, because we are learning, everybody is learning, and every marriage is work in progress, because we are learning a lot of things. You are coming from different backgrounds, and with anger, I mean, our personalities as men and women are quite different. We women, we are so emotional. We want to say, oh, this is how I feel. Whereas men, most of the time, not all of them are emotional like we women. So, but at the end of the day, it's about understanding one another. And if you, self-awareness, like you mentioned, is really key. Understanding who you are, your strength, your weaknesses, and be able to see how you can minimize whatever that will have generated to a lot of conflict between the two of you, and say, okay, why have I run? And what messages are you sending messages of, oh no, I can't take it, I cannot take it, this is an insult, no, I'm not going to take it. Obviously your reaction, because sometimes it's always very good to not to react. It's always good to respond appropriately, rather than just reacting in a way that is going to cause more problems. And like for me, I know that one thing is that I'm not as patient, like my late mom was very patient, and I'm somebody that will say, no, I'm not going to take it. But over time, I try to reflect in my own way and try to see, okay, where have I done wrong? Because part of it is to do your own homework, thinking, what have you done wrong for you to? And it depends on how you change your perspective towards that problem. So, and when you don't change your perspective, it's going to create a lot of problems in your marriage. Even as a Christian, it doesn't mean that we cannot say every emotion is valid. Every emotion is valid. It's not something we can put, but at the end of the day, we are all work in progress, and life is about learning, relearning, and unlearning. So that's just my addition. But sometimes the messages we send to our brain can cause a lot of can create a lot of problems. So you can reframe your mind and see the perspective, and see another perspective of seeing that you think that that thing that is causing a lot of doing your head in, and you can't stand it, you understand. So our approach will be really different when we are talking, and when we're talking to our spouse, or when our spouse is talking to us, and things can be in a brighter light. That's just my own addition to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that contribution. Thank you. And to Grace, I'll reach out to you after the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Now there were two questions actually that someone sent to me this morning. And to be honest, it's nothing to do with communication and conflict resolution. But since I think the Colossians Family Network is about, marriage, the person did say to me to ask you. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I mute. Okay. So, and the first question is this, that, sorry, let me just try and read it. I think it's easier. The first question is this, that as a single person, this is not a marriage now, it's as a single person, are sex toys okay to use? And what is your take on it?
Right. Shall I start? Okay. My response is going to be from a biblical perspective. I know that there are some things that the Bible does not specifically talk about. But what we have to realize is there are so many ways that God speaks to us. The things that the Bible does not talk about generally, specifically, He spoke about them generally. When the Bible talks about sexual immoralities, it's a general term, it's a general instruction when it says that it should not be named amongst us. Now, even for married people, and that's our take. Sexual immorality is a general term. And when we talk about things like, masturbation, use of sex toys, sex before marriage, adultery, looking lustfully at a woman, pornography, there's so many things that we believe comes under sexual immorality. And one of the ways that God speaks to us is through our conscience. And I know that sometimes when we ask questions, it's because the things we're there's something in our conscience that the Spirit of God is using to check us to say, is this right? Even though I can't see in the Bible where it says, there were no sex toys in the days of the Bible. So the Bible could not have specifically said, don't use sex toys. But if in your conscience, if there's something we're doing that is our conscience is not agreeing with, that's the Spirit of God, that's the Holy Spirit that is trying to speak to you through your conscience. And it's important that we don't silence that, because our conscience can become seared because we want to have our way, we want to do what we want to do. And so it's important that we don't go against our conscience when the Spirit of God is telling us. I know that out there in the world, it's almost like, it's something that everybody does, and you can't, it's not a secret. But if you're named, the people that name the name of the Lord, the people that we live by a different standard to the world. And I know that, yes, as a single person, you have all your emotions, you want all the hormones and things are there in your body. God created you with them. But the way to deal with singleness and loneliness is not by dabbling into, not doing it the way the world would do it. There's a positive way. There's a way you can trust God for your time of singleness, that you can stay pure before the Lord. The Lord God is able to give you that strength to stay pure before Him. So my take is that it's wrong. Yeah, I'll just.
I was going to say that I'm the one that's usually more diplomatic, but you're not giving very diplomatic answer today.
Oh, is it? I didn't think it's diplomatic.
Now, I will start by reading 1 Corinthians. There are a few verses in here. I wasn't there when they wrote it, but as a Christian, I subscribe to this. I would like you to be free from concern. So that's where that is coming from. An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs, and how it can please the Lord. And then when it goes to verse 34, it says, an unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. Our aim is to be devoted to the Lord in both body and spirit. And then it goes on and on. That's the first thing. Second is sex toys. What are sex toys for? It's for sex. So what this person is asking is, can an unmarried person have sex? In the world, yes. In Christianity for followers of Christ, my understanding is that that is not recommended, acceptable, or to be encouraged. And yes, we can then say that, how do we deal with singleness and things like that? That's another topic. This is the time to prepare ourselves. Now, this person who is single, I don't know what age, there is, no matter what the age is, there's still much more ahead. Singleness is blessed. This is the time to prepare. This is the time to see God's face so that we would enjoy what God has in store for us, not to be toying with sex toys. That's my take.
Thank you so much for that. The second topic is this, dating sites. What do you think about dating sites for Christians? Is it good or bad?
Dating sites for Christians, it's not something that I subscribe to. We are all aware of the danger of the internet, because when you go on dating sites, I've seen, I've only experienced a couple that met each other on dating sites, and the lady told, he said he was a Christian and this, and then they married. They're no longer together now. And I mean, I'm not saying that they are not successful. I mean, there might be successful Christian marriages that met on dating sites, but we are all aware of the danger of the internet. People tell you what you want to hear. They can doctor their profile. In fact, people even use, I was listening to a program, one celebrity was saying that people are using his picture on dating sites. That's how bad it can be. And so if as a Christian, you subject yourself to, I know there are some out there that claim to be Christian dating sites, but it's bad enough. The people, someone that you met in church, that you see each other physically and you know them and you see them, sometimes it's bad enough when you marry them, you start questioning, are they actually who they say they are? So I think it's a higher risk, much higher risk, if you're not putting yourself out there on the internet to meet somebody. I mean, that's what I think, and that's my take. It's not something I would subscribe to. I believe that God leads people. I believe that God still guides people. I believe that God still brings people together. And usually it's in the service, it's while you're serving God, God will bring your own person, your own way. I believe that God can, I'm not saying God cannot use the internet, but I think it's too risky, what we know of the internet, to expose yourself to it.
Yes, I want to say it's slightly a bit away from what she has said. We go to internet to do a lot of things. God has blessed us with the internet. Yes, a lot of things. That's why we can stay in Scarborough and everybody is connected from their home. Internet is good for a lot of things. If we're talking about dating, when most of us were going to get married, we went to church. That's where we met people. That was the organization that brought people together. Now, in church, when we were there were people who came to look for sisters. There were people who came to look for brothers who were not Christians, who just pretended. There were Muslims who came to get Christian people so that they can make them one of their own parents. So the disadvantages are in the medium that we used as well. So if somebody is going to go to dating sites, they should be aware of all the dangers. And because of that, I think the danger weighs heavily on one not using it. But I'm not going to say that dating sites is ungodly. But the few people that I've seen that have gone on dating sites, some people at work, their stories, and they're gory stories. I would not want to go to dating sites if I were choosing today.
And this is not taking away from the fact that it could be difficult for single people. And I think especially ladies, because I mean, culturally, ladies don't make the first move when it comes to starting a relationship. So this is not taking away from the fact that, you know, the culture that we're in now and the circumstances, there could be a lot of pressure that bring, even, you know, talking about sex toys and you're talking about, there's a lot of pressure that comes with waiting for a spouse or wanting marriage and not finding a partner. It's not taking away, it's not trying to we're not trying to minimize the pressures. But what we need to remember is the pressures will always be there. Also, it's important that as single people, we learn how to manage the pressures that come with being single, because pressures can, you know, giving into the pressure can lead you into doing things that are wrong. And so we need to be careful how we manage the pressure that comes with singleness.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If you have any other question, we're going to take one more, because normally we finish at 9, but I just wanted to give us that opportunity based on the topic that we've learned today, communication and conflict resolution. So if you have any question, please do put your hands up and then we can unmute you before we close. It could be a question, it could be a contribution as well.
One contribution I want to add, especially when it comes to relationship with people, if you have conflict with your spouse, the best people to resolve that conflict is both of you. Some people are quick to say, okay, we have to go and see a member of the family, or we have to go and see a pastor, or we have to go and see psychologists, we have to go and see this. No, it starts from you guys. You all, because there's no way you, especially people coming to us, being pastors or whatever, we don't get the whole truth. We don't get the whole fact. Everybody will only give their own version of what is happening, and we're expecting pastor or psychologist or head of the family to take side, which is hard. So for the purpose of resolving conflict, I'm just putting this out there for people that are listening. If you have issue with your spouse, the best people to resolve these issues are both of you. You started it, you can hand it. So that is just my word of wisdom.
Thank you.
Yes, completely agree with you.
Okay, I think there are no questions. I'm gonna ask, let me just see if she's still here. Mommy Lara Kukmolui, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. You're very popular tonight. Just pray for us, because you know, she's married for so many years. I know her very well. She's very elderly, and she's a woman of wisdom as well. So mommy, please, if you can just pray for us. Mommy Lara Kukmolui, I've asked you to unmute yourself. I'm not sure if you're still here. Are you there? Yes. Oh, sorry. I muted you back. Can you unmute now, please? Perfect. Yes.
Thank you, Lord, for giving us the opportunity to gather here. to open our mind to things that will benefit us and our children. And we thank you for these couples who has led this program. I pray that God in its infinite mercy will support you all, give us insights to a better life at home and our surroundings. And that God, as we all have taken in what we've learned today, which I believe that learning is a lifelong thing. We learn every day. God inculcates your power so that we as individual will know you, because if you know God, there's nothing difficult through God, and God will direct your path in Jesus' mighty name.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, ma. She's
Thank
a
you.
woman of peace. I've known her. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has come in tonight. Do you have anything to say?
No, we just want to say thank you. This is awesome. We had a great time here tonight. We want to bless the Lord for every one of you, and we hope to see you around again, and invite more men often. So get men topic on this platform. Otherwise, we'll start our own.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think there is a link there if you want to be a part of Pass the Baton next month. We have this every month. Please do fill in the link. For only the purpose of Pass the Baton, we would send you a message to let you know that this is the topic and this is the Zoom link. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking time out. Especially for people who are in Nigeria. I see you. Thank you so much. And we pray for Nigeria as well.
From the US as well.
The US, they have Wi-Fi. So we're saying thank you to them. But
and people from Germany and
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
We really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And please pray for Nigeria if you're in Nigeria and for tomorrow.
Yeah. God is
pray,
good. God is going to do
We
wonders.
are so hopeful.
God will surprise some people.
Amen. Thank you.
It's our season.
Amen. Amen. So good night, everyone. Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you all.